This is my brother Jack, 20 years old in this picture, a high school graduate like many of us, but in my eyes, Jack is much more remarkable than myself or anyone in this room. Jack was born with autism, and with that comes many challenges, but also many gifts. Jack has a photographic memory. He can write down the credits of any movie he's ever watched, even if he's only watched it once, and his first words were www.com at 1 year old. And that's just a few of his many traits. For many, their assumptions about autism is that it's a tragedy, but I am here to tell you that autism is no tragedy, it is a gift. Hi, I'm Riley Nakosh, and I'd like to educate you all on the importance of understanding autism. Listening today will be crucial in showing you why this topic is so important. I feel confident I can give you a little insight into why my life is better understanding and appreciating kids on the spectrum. The key ways to understanding the autistic spectrum are understanding the basics of autism, understanding what the spectrum is and what high versus low functioning is, and just giving a personal experience of why my life is better with Jack in it. For those not familiar with what autistic spectrum disorder, also known as ASD, is the CDC defines it as a developmental disability that can cause significant social, behavioral, or communicational challenges. The CDC also has insight that 1 in 54 kids in the US are living with autism today. This meaning more than likely you're going to meet somebody with ASD. ASD is also not a single disorder, it is a spectrum. This chart is the perfect example of how the autistic spectrum is not linear, but is actually more of a target spectrum. Some are nonverbal, others have sensory issues, and anything in between. Yet, all are grouped into one diagnosis, that is autism. This is a very loaded term for many. Every kid with autism has different struggles, and the National Autism Society talks about the many comorbid medical conditions that kids with autism also can possess. This being digestive disorders, chronic seizures, sleep disorders, anxiety, just to name a few. This meaning that these kids are not only struggling with ASD and what that comes with, but also struggling with these comorbid medical conditions that can make their lives even harder. When people talk about high versus low functioning on this autistic spectrum, they're usually talking about the many symptoms similar to that in the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. It states that high functioning is without that support, social communication can be impaired. The difference in low functioning is that they have to have that substantial support. Kids with low functioning ASD generally have severe deficits in verbal and nonverbal communication. All people with ASD have challenges and a unique story that makes them who they are, and they really can't be just put into one category. The CDC says that the most reliable diagnosis is between 18 to 24 months old. Before ASD was recognized in society, kids were not being diagnosed, therefore couldn't get the resources needed to make their lives just a little bit easier. My brother Jack is the perfect example about how kids can thrive given the resources needed. Jack was a very unique child. He did things much differently than other kids. He wouldn't make eye contact. He wouldn't show mom and dad what he was proud of doing that day. He really only said the same few words over and over again, and he wouldn't eat normally or sleep normally. So this obviously caused worry for my parents, and at 2 years of age, he was diagnosed with autism, which was a huge release for our family to be able to know we could get him the resources he needed. Jack went through occupational therapy, behavioral therapy, speech therapy. We got him, went as far as getting him a service dog and getting him an aide in the classroom at all times. But what we didn't know was it was really in front of our eyes the whole time the way Jack liked to communicate. And this, we all knew Jack was extremely smart. He would take letter blocks at as early as 1.5 years old and write out the words DreamWorks Productions at 1.5 years old or other things of the sort. He would take a piece of white paper and write FBI warning at 1.5 years old. And my aunt was watching us one day and was like, Shannon, who is my mom, what is that? Saying FBI warning on a piece of paper. But yeah, Jack does amazing things like that. And what we didn't realize was he was trying to talk to us through movies and TV, the only way he knew how. And once we realized this, life became a lot easier for us. So to this day, we still sing songs from Blue's Clues, Toy Story, Shrek, you name it. He probably knows the entire movie. And though it's not the typical language spoken between siblings, it is a special bond that me and my brothers have. He now lives in an apartment with 30 other kids on the spectrum, and he has 2 wonderful caretakers who are a great addition to our family. So the reason that this is possible is because we treated Jack's diagnosis as something we had to get to know, understand, and getting him diagnosed early was the way that we were able to do that so easily. So, knowing the basics of autism, understanding the spectrum, the difference between high versus low functioning, and that it's not a linear spectrum, it is a target spectrum, treating every diagnosis differently, and diagnosing at an early age are all ways that we can help kids in a world that isn't normally easy for them to thrive. So for people like Jack, your kindness and your understanding could have all the difference. Thank you.